So thinking about Germany, maybe?
Yeah.
That idea of packing up and starting something new over there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the big question for a lot of people is always, how do you even start if you don't have a job offer waiting? That
Yeah.
work visa thing.
Right. It often feels like the biggest hurdle.
Well, good news is you've tuned into the right place. We're doing a deep dive today, looking at an article that lays out some ways you might be able to relocate to Germany, even without that sponsored work visa right away.
Exactly. And the interesting thing the article points out is that while, yes, having a job first is the standard path, Germany actually does have systems in place for people to come first and then find their footing.
Okay, so it's possible, but maybe not straightforward.
It definitely takes preparation. It's not,
Yeah.
a walk in the park, but these avenues do exist.
All right, let's get into it. One of the main things the article talks about is this looking for a Jode residence permit. Sounds pretty self-explanatory.
It does. Basically, it allows you to live in Germany for up to 6 months, specifically to look for qualified employment.
6 months. Okay, so what's the catch? Or like the main requirement?
The absolute key is proving you can support yourself financially for that entire period without relying on, German social welfare.
Okay. So you need savings. Serious savings, presumably.
Yes. You need to demonstrate you have sufficient funds. The article doesn't give exact figures, costs that can change, but think living costs for half a year. It's a big one.
Yeah.
And it's generally aimed at skilled folks, people whose qualifications are actually needed in Germany.
Gotcha. So it's targeted. It's not just to come hang out and maybe find a job visa.
Definitely not. It's a structured search period.
What happens after 6 months if you haven't landed anything? The article was a bit vague there. Extensions?
Yeah, the source doesn't detail extensions. Generally, the expectation is pretty clear. Find a job and switch to a work visa, or you'll likely need to leave. Extensions aren't impossible, but only in very specific limited cases. It's not something you should count on.
Okay, plan for the 6 months to be the window. Now, what if you're not looking for traditional employment? Maybe you want to, work for yourself. The article mentioned a freelancer visa.
Mm-hmm.
Or the residence permit for self-employment, yeah. This is a really good option if your goal is to freelance or run your own business in Germany.
How does that work? What do they want to see?
Well, two main things. First, a really solid, viable business plan. You need to show your idea makes sense financially.
Okay, makes sense.
And second, evidence that your work will benefit Germany economically. This could mean showing you have potential clients, maybe letters of intent, realistic income projections, stuff like that.
So you need to prove you'll be a contributor, not just getting by.
Exactly. They want to see a positive economic or cultural contribution.
The article also kind of briefly mentions student visas. How does going to university fit into this relocation picture?
Right. That's another common pathway. Enrolling in a German university gives you a clear reason and permit to live there.
And then potentially stay afterward. While the article didn't go deep into this, it's well established that after graduating, international students usually get a period, often 18 months, to find qualified work related to their studies and then switch to a work permit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a longer game, but very solid.
Okay, so that's another angle. And family reunification was mentioned too, very briefly.
Yeah, just touched upon. But obviously, if you have a spouse or close family who are German citizens or permanent residents, that opens up completely different possibilities for moving. That's a whole separate category.
So bringing it all together, it seems like moving without a job offer is, well, feasible, but not simple.
Not simple is a good way to put it. It requires serious planning. Financial stability is crucial, and you really need to understand the nitty-gritty details of whichever permit you're aiming for.
Right. So for you listening, the big takeaway here is that, yes, getting a job before you go makes things smoother, probably, but it's not the absolute only way in. You've got options like the job seeker visa, the freelance path, student route.
But each one has its own set of hoops to jump through, its own specific requirements and application steps. You got to do your homework.
Absolutely. It boils down to figuring out which path clicks best with your own skills, your finances, and what you actually want to achieve long-term in Germany.
And then really commit to the research needed for that specific path.
Okay, so we've covered the job seeker permit, the freelance or self-employment option, and using study as a route in. All potential ways to get to Germany without that job offer first. Thinking about these different avenues, what's the first step that kind of resonates most with your personal goals for Germany?
That's really the question to ponder.
Yeah, that's your starting point for digging deeper. And we definitely recommend you look into the specific requirements for any option that catches your eye. Always, always check the official German immigration websites for the latest, most accurate info.
Absolutely essential. Official sources are key.